stickers,
yeah.
Inspiration and the ideas that a lot, and I feel like I've heard you have issue with some of the modern practices that people are taking up in their spirituality and other pursuits. I'm wondering if those practices and those ideas actually have value, but the way in which they're presented as a kind of a cure-all or do this and you'll be okay is misguided. Or the way that they're presented is incomplete, or maybe puts the cart before the horse. There's a lot of background that needs to be done before those practices and those ideas actually are of value.
You're wearing all black. It reminds me of Johnny Cash. That's true. Smart ass. So let's break down your question, if I can remember some of it at least. No, it's okay. It was a good question. Spirituality, modern practices, bumper stickers, something like that?
Yeah. And trying to jump ahead.
Okay. Imagine for a moment that you like Miley Cyrus as a musician. Yeah, she actually has. For me, she has a very nice voice. What she does with it is a different story, but the tone of her voice is actually quite nice. And you first heard her sing her song called The Climb, which is a beautiful song. It's about the difficulties of life, that you always are moving uphill and it's tough. But eventually life will become okay. Just be patient. And after a while, I suppose you'll just fall in love with climbing. I'm not quite sure if as a 19-year-old kid you can actually understand the lyrics, but nevertheless, as songs go, it's a nice song. So after having heard her sing, you say, I wonder if she's ever going to come to the Bay Area to have a concert. And lo and behold, your friend says, Miley Cyrus is coming to San Jose. You buy the tickets for you, your son, your wife. You spend $1,000, front row, and you watch her sing and dance. And be ridiculous the way most musicians these days are. When you walk away from the concert, I doubt very much you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to be the next Miley Cyrus. Emerson? You just go there to enjoy. And you go there to be consumed, to be intoxicated by her music, her voice. And there is not even an imagination within you that says you're going to pursue that particular career and you're going to sing those particular songs. You just go there for enjoyment. There is another branch that could come out of this, that your son will turn to you and say, Dad, I loved her. And I want to sing like her and play music like her. Can we maybe go home and YouTube her, and maybe if she comes to San Jose again, we can buy tickets and go see her? So, because I want to study her. I want to pay close attention to see how she moves, how she sings, the sort of lyrics that she has, the sort of emotions on her face. So he goes in not so much to enjoy the music. He says, I no longer want to enjoy the music. I want to study Miley Cyrus herself. And the reason why he does it is because he's confided in you that he wants to be the next Miley Cyrus, the male version. So what you have are two very, very different people listening to Miley Cyrus. One has no desire to become like her. She just goes there to enjoy. And even though her songs may come from the Old Testament, you're not inspired to change your life. You're just there to listen to music, enjoy, and go home. And then on the way home, you can talk to your wife about how beautiful the concert was. The second person looks at Miley as a rat, studies her very, very carefully, and becomes interested in her history, her father, her mother, why she's the way she is, and then begins to plagiarize her, i.e. he begins to mimic the way she sings, mimic the way she moves, and then eventually will be the male version of Miley Cyrus, exactly, until of course he finds his own voice, and then he just becomes something very, very different. But the foundation, the inspiration was of Miley Cyrus. I didn't read the dialogues of Plato to become the next Socrates. Socrates for me was the Miley Cyrus. I just read it because it was beautiful bumper stickers about justice, about beauty, about Socrates, about love, about the world of ideas, about the politics of life. My ego was not in a place where it said, you should be the next Plato. I wasn't that. I don't think people watch New Age teachers or read books to become the next Angela Davis, to become the next Jordan Peterson, to become the next Malcolm X or Mahatma Gandhi. These are intellectual heroes. They go on the stage and they sing. Their songs are a little different. Their craft is a bit different. They still use their voice, but the only instrument that they have is their mind and imagination and creativity. And I sit in the audience and I listen and I get inspired. And I may not move my body. Once in a while I may cry. I remember Cornel West came to Henry Kaiser across the street from Laney. This was in 2004, I think. At that time, Elnora Webb was my dean, and she had a rough history, but somehow she pulled herself together, went to Berkeley, got a PhD. Long story short, and Cornel West, he had this powerful and huge presence. He always wears the same suit, or maybe he's got like 5 of the same suits. He always wears the same scarf. And he has this southern hospitality to him. And he may look at you and say, you're a scumbag, but he says it in a way that you say, my God, that's beautiful. Please tell me more about how much of a scumbag I really am, because I enjoy it. I love it, the way you say it. And so there were moments where I got teary-eyed. But never once did I say I want to be the next Cornel West, even though I was teaching at Laney, and I had been teaching for many, many years prior. I think what has happened these days is that you read books because you want to be the author. You listen to New Age teachers because now you want to be a teacher. And the truth is, we're not ready for any of that. First, you're a 50-year-old man. You're not even attractive. No one's going to come to a concert, look at you, and listen to your voice, which you don't really have a good one in any case. And the truth is, well, why the hell would you want to imagine to be the next Miley Cyrus? Because you live in a culture that advertises those things to you. You know, read Plato, it inspires you, fine. Watch Jordan Peterson. And I think that's one of the flaws about New Age teachers. They're always on this stage trying to inspire people to change their lives, which is impossible. Know your audience well. They are there because you're an intellectual singer. You're like a Miley Cyrus of the intellectual world. They come there to listen to you, to enjoy your, body language, to enjoy your intellectual prowess. They're inspired. And then they go home and they talk about you. So don't stand on the stage telling people what they need to do to change their lives. That's nearly impossible. So I think what you have these days is, we had a student in my class yesterday and she asked me, why did we talk about Socrates? Well, the truth is Socrates has come with 2,000 years of advertisement. Every philosophy class you take, there is the name Socrates. When you want to read a book on philosophy, they say, well, Dialogues of Plato. Who's Plato? Student of Socrates. And Socrates, has been said, he's the fountainhead, the foundation of Western philosophy. There is no one greater than him, and there is no one who's ever going to be greater than Socrates. He's like a one-stop shop. He's like Costco. But before Socrates became Socrates for us, he's had a lot of people advertise his name, his ideas, his philosophy. Even his death has become something of immortal. You know, that he didn't fear death at all, like most of us in this class. He was married, but he was very detached. He was like the Buddha, even before the Buddha was born. You know. And, every person walks in the classroom after getting their PhD in philosophy, assuming that they're going to be the next Socrates or Jean-Paul Sartre or Jordan Peterson, whomever the hell they want to, they fantasize themselves to be. But I think the trick is this. I think the trick is you reading a very, very close reading of the Gospel of John, near the ending, where he says, look at me, you see God. I am the bread. I am Abraham. I am this. I am that. I am Adam, but without any contamination. And what he's saying is, there is no reason for you to leave your parents at the age of 12, go to the desert for the next 18 years to figure out who and what the hell you are. There is no reason to find the kingdom of God within. I've given you a shortcut. My presence is powerful enough. I'm like the Miley Cyrus of the prophets and the spiritual world. Just look at me, and I'll give you the experience. Just don't go home and, thinking that you're going to be the next Miley Cyrus or the Jesus Christ. That's never going to happen. You don't have the capacity. But because, you and I live in a culture where we are advertised things on a daily basis. There was a study done some time ago that one of the simple reasons as why we have sexualized kids, overly sexualized kids, is because about 85-90% of the things advertised to them have sexual components in them. Yeah?
Yeah, and in schools now, they talk about same sex and all that.
Yeah, all that stuff.
That's nasty.
Well, whatever the case may be, the point is, when you...
Who passed that law? They had to pass that law.
No, it's called diversity, liberalism. But we'll talk about that later.
No, it's called pedophilia. I don't care. All y'all can think what y'all like. I'm telling you the truth.
And I think the trick is for you to find someone who inspires you. If, for example, you have watched Jordan Peterson a few times, or if you watch Sadhguru, or if you watch Eckhart Tolle, or anyone out there who inspires you, don't become a victim to this philosophy that if you keep watching and if you keep practicing, you will be the next Sadhguru. You will be the next Socrates.
No, but if you keep watching same sex, you might be same sex.
So, once you have found an inspiration, let that be your son. And you have enough self-knowledge, humility, insight, and wisdom, and say, I'm never going to be like Socrates, but what I will do, I will continuously read the dialogues of Plato to become more and more intimate with Socrates, to get a taste of his world, to get a taste of his ideas. I will allow him to inspire me. I will not allow my ego to inflate. That will block everything Socrates is telling me. If you can find yourself in such an environment, in some ways you're blessed. You have been handed a gift because you have found an anchor. There is a person to whom you can go and ask questions. There's a person whose answers you will respect. You know, there's a person just in case your life falls apart, he or she can put together and you will say yes without hesitation. If on the other hand, you have found no such person, you're on your own, and you become to some extent an intellectual prostitute. One day you're a Buddhist, the next day you're a Christian, the next day you're a Jew, the next day you're a Muslim, the next day you're a Taoist, the next day you're an atheist. You're like all over the place. Now, there is nothing wrong with being all of them. The only thing you need to understand is the Buddha doesn't believe in sin. But if you're a Christian, you need to believe in sin. Because if you don't believe in sin, there is no one out there to save you except yourself. If on the other hand, you're a Christian, you need to believe in sin and you need to believe that there is someone out there, namely Jesus Christ, who is there to save you. And so if you can't somehow find these two forces compatible, becoming intimate together, lay together harmoniously, you're in big trouble. Okay. Now you're going to pretend as if no conflict lives inside you, but there is a good amount of conflict. You know, it's like love and hate. One day you hate, the next day you love. And you can only go on living like that for so long before you just crash. The flip side of this, of having found a Socrates, for example, is that there are about 8 billion people on this planet. It's like once you get pregnant, it doesn't matter how many times you have sex. The gates are closed. No sperm is ever going to find itself near an egg. Okay? So, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question. You know, there is also this, I think, other component. Sometimes I listen to some podcasts that are Persian where someone is talking about, say, Socrates. Recently there came out a podcast on Socrates, Plato, Allegory of the Cave. It is 73 hours. It's not even Plato, I don't think, is able to create 70 hours of talking about the allegory of the cave. And the reason why it's 72 hours is because this guy connects the difficulties of enlightenment, of being in prison, then coming to realize that in fact you are in prison, that others have lied to you, and you have to overcome all of your belief systems for the past like 20, 30, 40 years of your presence in this prison system, to be curious enough to turn around, you know. He has related Plato's ideas to Persian poets, Persian mystics, and he just goes on and on and on and on and on. And one of the reasons why you can do that is because you have a culture that's about 4,000 years old. And a 4,000-year culture does not make any aspect of life easy. Marriage is tough. Your job sucks. Suck it up. People, that's the way it is. Politics, one day you have a good day, 5 days you have an awful day. Youth will last you one day. Old age, 50 years. And so you realize that in this culture, African culture, Mexican culture, Middle Eastern culture, Asian culture, they take something that seems to be simple, But because they've lived life for a while, they make it enormously complicated because it is complicated. And as such, people have the patience to understand that life is a struggle. There is no easy way to happiness. There is no easy way to success. There is no easy way to wisdom. It's going to take you 50 years. And what are you going to do in these 50 years? Well, you're going to listen to 72 hours of Allegory of the Cave. Okay. Now, consider the West, namely America, since this is who and what we are and where we live. We don't have a culture that inspires patience. You know, you're also talking about people who assume to be independent individuals. They're self-willed and self-motivated and self-inspired. And they have rights. And no one can invade their space. And then you have a text, just in case sending your text is delayed by a few seconds, you throw a temper tantrum. Just in case you ask a question in class and the instructor doesn't, respond to your question right there and then, you form a complaint. Just in case you get a customer or your food is delayed, there is another fist fight. And part of it really has to do with the fact there are so many options here. You don't like this class, there are 50 other philosophy classes being offered by Peralta, You don't have options in third world countries, in countries where people have to survive, struggle to survive. When there are no options, you become resilient. Here you have lots of options. And that's where, your child gets spoiled because you give him everything he wants. He has options. And that's the sort of kind of psyches you create. Okay. Now, someone comes to you and says, I want to become a good student of philosophy. What do I do? Well, if philosophy is founded on love and wisdom, and if the prerequisite to wisdom is love, well, let me teach you what love is. But then you have to get over the romanticization of love created by Hollywood and the dating business and all that. Then you also have to create narratives that don't really exist in this culture. In the Greek world, you have 8 different shades of love. Here you only have 1. And so before you can be taught love the right way, you have to go through all these 7 different branches and then come to a place where you realize you're completely consumed by love, you have no power over it, and yet you need to keep your mouth shut and remain faithful. Well, who does that here? Nobody. How do you get rid of your expectations? Well, I don't know how it's done here. How do you make sure you don't cross lines? Well, here, nobody really cares. There is no element of shame, self-respect. It's not part of the cultural heritage. And then wisdom. Well, here, because you don't really have the patience or the narrative to wait for 20 years. I mean, let's just say this is a Christian culture. People give themselves, wrongly of course, the title Christianity. They're the followers of Jesus Christ. Okay, fine, that's great for you. Let's look at his life. He left the people he loved at the age of 12. Now, people here leave their parents because they say, my parents suck. I hate my dad and I hate my mom. So you leave for reasons that are the very exact opposite of why he left. Second, he left for the desert, disappeared for 18 years. Who knows where he went? There are stories about him. Went to Egypt, went to Persia, went to India, went to Greece. Who the hell knows? Had teachers of sorts. Who becomes a student like that for 18 years? Who comes back and says society sucks, religion sucks? That for the past 2,000 years as Jews, I like you, I love you, I respect you guys, but listen, you guys are letter of the law people. But I gotta tell you, you need to pay attention to the spirit. Now, what you have is a guy who is turning everything upside down, religion upside down, society upside down, politics upside down, all the philosophies of life founded on Jewish philosophy upside down. And in the end, what do you get? You die. That is the spirit of Christianity. But the only thing that people have, myself included, is just a name. because it makes me feel good. It makes me belong. And there is nothing wrong with that. The point I'm trying to make is you're trying to take a philosophy that has taken 5,000 years to develop, inject it in a culture that has zero patience. You want things to be done immediately. And when someone says, shut your mouth, keep your hands down, just listen. I don't want to hear a peep from you. Say, no, I have rights. Okay, well then, that's how things are. It wasn't easy to create yoga in India. It went through lots of revisions. Reincarnation is not a happy philosophy of life. It really, really isn't. The human birth was not an enjoyable, pleasant thing to experience. And yet, for some strange reason, leave it to the Westerners to create all these complex philosophy that deal with human emotions, human life, politics, into something fun and entertaining. Like Madonna sings the songs that come out of Rumi. Eckhart Tolle talks about Rumi, and then all these even ridiculous Muslims who come on TV, get into debates, trying to convince the Christians that Muslims are not terrorists. And the Christians trying to convince Muslims that, yes, you are. We are peace-loving people. It's just ridiculous. And you would think that within a 2-hour time period, you can resolve an issue that's been around for like 5, 10, 15, 20,000 years. That's how ridiculous we are. Again, the trick, if you find a Costco, hang out with the Costco. And should you find yourself at any stage in your life that you have had glimpses of yourself being Socrates-like, it means you have capacities. Now, to what extent your capacity will allow you to become a bona fide Socrates, only time will tell. But if there are moments where you have found yourself inspired, keep reading. Keep hanging out with the Costco or the son or your teacher. Until you realize a couple of things. That you, in fact, can generate and create ideas on your own. And by that, I mean, it doesn't mean that you've completely dismissed the cultural narratives that have been around for 5, 6, 10,000 years. You still depend on them as tools, But now you can kind of improvise. You can take the ideas of the past, of the present, and put them together in a way that fits you, your temperament. You have to be a child of your time. And child of your time means, okay, you have a kid who lives in the 21st century, forgive me, in a minute, in the 21st century, and everywhere he goes, everybody has a cell phone. Now, you have a couple of options. You can either smack him every time he talks about cell phones, okay, good morning, or you could say, listen, this is the tsunami coming at our way, and it's going to come our way every single day. And there is no escape from it. The best I can do is maybe I should just sit with my kid, give him my phone, and him and I can watch Bluey for 5 hours. He can get used to my smell. He can get used to my arms wrapped around him. Once in a while I can kiss him. Once in a while I can say, so should I make pizza for you while we're watching Bluey? And then you say, you hope to God that when he grows up and he's addicted to cell phones and technology, he's always going to have you in mind. And he's always wanted to hang out with someone who is a fatherly figure, who is kind, compassionate, forgiving, generous. Otherwise, if you keep slapping him, he's going to, at the age of 15, say, Dad, I'm out. And God knows where he's going to end up. Child of your time. You can't go back and be Socrates some 3,000 years ago, but you can use his ideas to see if they can be useful, functional, in 2023. Not for your friends, but for your wife, for your child, for your job, for yourself, and how you can up your salary.
You said that Christians, hating or being afraid of Muslims, it seems like a conflict that existed for 15 or 20 years. Do you think you can relate the cause of that all the way back to the Crusades? possible. Like just like the same reason why.
Okay. Do you know what I do in this class every Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to about 10:15? I'm on a crusade. What am I doing? I'm exploiting you, manipulating you. I'm trying to change you to think like me, to look at the world through my eyes. Not just in this class, when you leave this class. And do you know why I can do that? Society has given me a label. Professor. I've gone to school and society has given me further labels. I'm a doctor of philosophy, I have a PhD. And because I have power, who speaks more in this class? I do. I pick and choose whose questions I want to welcome. I choose to what question I want to respond and focus on. Not you, I do. So the first thing you need to understand about power, any kind of power, by any kind of people, across space and time, the moment you have power, two things can happen. You have either exploited so much and so many things where you say, you know, I just want to become invisible. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to inspire them. I don't want to manipulate them. I don't care how they think about life. I'm too tired to have them think the way I do. You give up. And you become content after being worn out by life. That's a good place to be, where you become self-sufficient. That you no longer desire to share your meal with anyone. Because at one point in your life you were lonely and miserable and desperate. Now you say, you know what, I want to go home. In the quietness of my home, I want to make myself a nice spaghetti, meatballs, and just sit quietly. Maybe watch Bluey, you know, or Spider-Man and just eat my food. I have no desire to talk to anyone. I have no desire to express anything about myself to anyone. I have no need for that. Okay. Now, most people don't get that when they initially come to power. Unless, let's say you win the lotto, you're now a billionaire, but your parents have been very frugal with money. From the very moment of your birth, they've taught you how to view money, how to value money, to make sure that the world of advertisement doesn't manipulate you, exploit you in buying things or creating inside you desires that will lead you to spend your money on things that have zero value. It's not that you're stingy. You're frugal for a good reason. The world has nothing good to offer you. So you just buy books. You know, if you watch that movie, V for Vendetta, you know, where we see Evie waking up in her room, she's held hostage, she wakes up, and everywhere in the room you see just books, stacks of books, going all the way to the ceiling. And when she frees herself from the room and walks around his mansion, V's mansion, she comes to realize there are statues, you know, the sort of music that's played in the background, everything has cultural values that's there to inspire your soul to some extent, to have you fight for social justice and fairness, get good politicians in the House of Congress, for example. So the first thing, again, you need to understand about power is that you're a newcomer, you're a novice, and you want to flaunt it. Imagine you're a great-looking guy, and everywhere you go, you have this magnetic, charismatic quality to you. All the women or men come to you. And you know what power does. You know what your good looks can do. You say, do you want to go to my place? And they say, yes. And you take them. And you have them fall in love with you. And then they wake up and you tell them, you need to leave now. And now they're broken. You need to go through all of that for many, many years to come to realize, oh my God, I have this power, but I've been using people in all the wrong ways. You know what I'm going to do? Next time I go to a party, Just going to wear my glasses, keep my head down, make sure no one looks at or sees my good looks. And just in case people see my good look and are tempted to come my way, I will try to dissuade them from looking into my eyes. I will have them look at my intellect, the way I speak, the things I speak about, to see if they will be attracted to the ways I think. And if I find someone out there who can like the things I talk about, be inspired with the things I talk about, those people I will take home. So what you have in 1500 years ago is you have this tiny little kid. His name is Muhammad. He's confused like the rest of us, you know, and you're talking about a tribal setting. If you don't have parents, man, your life is tough. Because you need a support system. If you don't have parents, you better have grandparents. If you don't have grandparents, you better have uncles and aunts, because they are your tribe. They will protect you. They will give you things to survive. And it's not like a time where there are Safeways and Costco's. You can just sit back and relax. You have to work hard from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed. You know what he does? He goes into caves. He sits. And do you know what a cave is? It's dark. Do you know what happens when you sit in the dark for too long? I don't know if you have a companion, but if you do, imagine this person coming to you and saying after 5 years, I don't want to be with you anymore. You've just lost your GPS. Who are you going to go to Costco with? Who are you going to watch a movie with? Who are you going to eat food with? Who are you going to watch TV with? Nobody. Who are you going to call? Who are you going to text? Who's going to comfort you? Who's going to lay next to you? When you go home, who are you going to talk to? Nobody. You have lost your GPS. Now you're in psychological darkness. What, you think it's fun? You're going to be angry. You're going to be depressed. You want to know why the hell this is happening to you.